And we're back again. Day 13 of September shadow work, right? And today we are going to talk about being kind to ourselves, right? So the last couple of days we've talked a little bit about repeating lessons, coming back to the same lesson. We have talked about how our routines are going and how that can be challenging, and whether we're maybe trying to take on too much in some cases and that we need to sort of scale it down and make it an easier task potentially. And I was thinking today, and the variety of reasons for that, but I was thinking today, really, we need to talk about being kind to ourselves, because we can get frustrated when we feel like we're not getting it, or we're constantly repeating the same lesson, or we're not getting where we want to get in our routines, and we're struggling in one way or another with some of this work, right? This is hard stuff. Okay, this isn't easy. This takes work. It takes persistence. It takes awareness. It takes a lot of emotional energy. So what I want you to think about is how to be kind to yourself. Now, you see an awful lot of people talking about, oh, be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself. But they don't necessarily explain, what does it mean to be kind to yourself? What does it look like to be kind to yourself, right? And I think a lot of people sort of think of it in more sort of action terms, right? Like, oh, make a cup of tea for yourself, or take yourself a nice hot bath, or take a walk, or, and those are good things to do, to take a break. And we're going to have another day of rest tomorrow, by the way. I'm going to try to put something fun up, but it is going to be a day of rest tomorrow. And that's one way to be kind to yourself, to make sure that you're taking the rest. That's really taking good care of yourself, right? That's making sure that you're taking good care of your body, that you're eating healthy food, and that you are resting enough, and that you are taking a break and enjoying the moment with a hot cup of tea or a bath or whatever, right? But being kind to yourself is really more about how you talk to yourself. I mean, yes, how you treat yourself is definitely part of it. Like, you don't want to be abusing your body with too much really hard exercise, or, that we can go overboard with some of the ways we take care of ourselves, and it can become almost punishing, right? But what I'm really talking about, and I think most of the time when people talk about being kind to themselves, it's really about how we talk to ourselves, right? When we get frustrated, when we're having a difficult time, what are the things that we say to ourselves? Are we nice to ourselves, or do we start beating ourselves up? Do we start saying things like, oh, you'll never get this. You can't do this. You never manage to start a good routine. Do you really start to just beat yourself up? And even worse things that you could say to yourself, like, oh, you're just gross and fat and horrible. And, there's all kinds of nasty stuff we say to ourselves, right? And there's a couple of things that I'd like you to think about in that, right? When you catch yourself saying nasty things to yourself, or not kind or unkind things to yourself, or unhelpful things to yourself, I want you to think about whether or not that's the kind of thing that you would say to a young child. If you have children, to a child, or children that to your dog or your cat or your parakeet, like, are these things you would say to another living being, to another person? Because they probably aren't, And if you wouldn't say it to another person, and if you wouldn't want someone to say that to you, why are you doing it to yourself? Stop. And one technique I tell my clients all the time is, when they're having bad thoughts or intrusive thoughts or vortexing in particularly negative places, it's the stop sign technique. You just put up a stop sign in your mind. Stop, stop, stop. And stopping those unkind thoughts is definitely one way to be kind to yourself. And one way that I often visualize this for myself is, I will check in with little Catherine. right? And little Catherine is about 5 years old. It's the Catherine from my kindergarten picture that always comes up in my mind. And she has a little Peter Pan collar and a little gingham dress with a little applique on it. She has on little blue Mary Janes and little white socks, which I definitely hated because they always went down in my shoes. But that's the Catherine that I most often see when I check in with little Catherine, right? And I check in and see what she's doing, and sometimes she's having a tantrum, right? Or she's sad. And if that is what's going on, I will imagine in my mind, and I could sit here and do it right now while I'm talking to you, and you can do this too, right? You can check in with your younger self at whatever age and see what's going on. Are they sad? Are they happy? Are they joyful? Are they dancing? Are they having a tantrum? Are they screaming? Are they, like, what's going on? And if she's having a tantrum, if she's having a tough time, I will imagine, just picking her up like I would if I was her mom, and putting her on my lap and just giving her a hug and kissing her on the top of the head and telling her it's all going to be okay. And just giving her a little love, until she seems calmer, until she's not crying quite so hard. And maybe she's just sniffling a little bit. And then she kind of, you can feel when someone gets past the difficult part of a crying session, right? And you kind of relax, you're that probably know that own feeling from your own experience, but there's that moment where your body just kind of lets go. And I wait for that in my mind, right? And I find that to be a really helpful way to think of being kind to myself, because I am being kind to myself in that I'm looking inside and really seeing how I'm feeling on the interior, and I'm not anthropomorphizing, I can't think of the right word, but I am creating, in my mind, this little girl who represents me. And sometimes it's easier to be kinder to her than it is to adult me, right? Because she seems so innocent, right? And I inside am as innocent as she is, but I don't always give myself credit for that. So that's what I'm offering to you today, right? Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself in the way that the thoughts that you think about yourself, the things that you say to yourself, the words that you use for yourself, the way you talk about yourself. And then on top of that, if you want to, I have also offered you 2 tools, the stop sign, and then this idea of checking in with your younger self and maybe giving your younger self a hug, or holding your younger self in your lap and just rocking them, or sitting next to them in the sandbox while they play, or having a little dance with them, or whatever it is that feels right to you. But checking in with that little self and giving your younger self some love, which is in the end giving yourself some love. So that's what I leave you with today. Be kind to yourself. Be truly kind to yourself. You deserve it. You are a loving, lovable human being who is full of lovely flaws too, and that's okay. All right? So, big love. Mwah. Bye. Take care. Have a great day. And I'll post something for rest tomorrow. Okay. Bye.